Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Chapter 7 Show What You Can Do, number 1, with me, your host, Mr. Goldman. Hope you all had a wonderful spring break. Now it's time to have even more fun and review this test. Standard 1, use a single multiplier to find the following, which means you need to multiply 80 by one number to get your answer in one step. I'm going to increase 80 by 12%. So I start with 100%. I'm going to increase, so I'm going to add 12%, which is 112%, which as a multiplier is 1.1. Whoa, woohoo! 1.12. 1.12. So I'm going to multiply 80 times 1.12. Since I'm a lazy person, I'm going to use this calculator. 80 times 1.12. 89.6. There we go. And in one step, I have found my answer. My multiplier, you needed to have the multiplier as 1.12. Next, we're going to decrease 130 by 5%. Well, I'm always going to start with 100%. I'm decreasing, so I'm going to subtract 5%. Which is 95%, which as a decimal or a multiplier is 0.95. So that's my multiplier. So I'm going to do 130 times 0.95. Since this number is less than 1, it will be a decrease, so I know I'm on the right track. Again, I'm lazy. 130 times 0.95 is 123.5. So 123.5. Mrs. Shaw is receiving a 13% raise for her outstanding work at Union Middle School. Well deserved. She deserves much more than that, in fact. She previously made $250 each period she taught. How much will she now make each period? Well, it's a raise, so this is going to be an increase. I'm going to start with 100%. I'm going to increase that by 13%, and I get 113%, which as a decimal or multiplier is 1.13. A lot of people did 1.3, and then up here they did 1.2. Make sure you're doing this full. If you're still struggling with that, do this step. Add 12% to 100%, or in this case, 13% to 100%. Okay, so we're starting with 250. It's my original value. I multiply by my scale factor, or my multiplier, which is 1.13. 250 times 1.13, 282.5. Now, there's context to this question, right? So the answer is not 282.5. The answer is $282.50. So make sure we are writing that in the appropriate notation, since there is context. All right, standard 1. Standard 2. 4/15 equals x over 60. I'm going to use like a fraction busters method where I'm just going to multiply each side by 60. So I'm going to have 60 over 1 times 4/15 equals x over 60 times 60 over 1. So hopefully we see that the right side, the 60s, are going to cross out, cross simplify, and become 1 and 1. So I have x over 1 times 1 over 1, which is just x. Over here, I can cross simplify. 15 goes into 15 once. 15 goes into 60 4 times. A lot of us got to this point, but remember, 4 times 4 is not 8. 4 times 4 is 16. So we have 16 equals x, or x equals 16. Next one, 5/6 equals 12.5x. My common denominator here is 6x. So I'm going to multiply both sides by 6x. All right, so on the left side, my 6's cross simplify, and I'm left with 5x. On the right side, my x's cross simplify, and I have 12.5 times 6, which is, of course, 75. You could have checked that with a calculator. Now I have 5x equals 75. My last step is to divide by the coefficient, which is 5. 5 divided by 5 is 1. 1 times x is x. 75 divided by 5 is 15. And I can do a common sense check. I know that this number needs to be bigger than 12.5 because 6 is bigger than 5, and this is an equivalent ratio. But it can't be like a whole lot bigger, so 15 definitely makes sense. Same with over here. I know that x is going to be a lot less than 60 because 4 is a lot less than 15, and 16 works. It passes the common sense test. All right. Number 3, the ratio of boys to girls riding the bus to school is 3:2. Careful with this. Boys to girls. So that means the 3 is boys. Okay, so we can set this up as 3 boys to 2 girls. All right. If there are 18 boys on the bus, so 18 goes up top. How many girls are there? Well, I can solve this one with just a simple giant 1. So I'm going to just right over here, 3 over 2. My giant 1 is 6 over 6, which gives me 18 over 12. So this would be 18 boys. If there's 18 boys, there's going to be 12 girls. So 12 girls. There's a lot of ways you guys can solve this. Overall, you guys did really good on this standard. Used a lot of different methods, which is good to see. Common sense check on this one is there's more boys to girls, so there better be fewer girls than boys. All right. Standard 3. Find the missing value if the rectangle on the right is scaled from the rectangle on the left. And we even wrote original and copy here. I want to find my scale factor, which is copy over original, right? So the 1 values I know, the 10, the corresponding side is 4. So my scale factor is 10 over 4, which is 2.5. And now that I have my scale factor, I can multiply times 2.5 will give me the question mark. So 10 times 2.5, I just move the decimal over once because I'm multiplying by 10. I get 25. Number 2, Mr. Barbera walks 3/4 of the way to the library. Of the way to the library is our unknown, right? If he has walked 200 inches, how far was he from the library when he started? So my original value is unknown, right? So if I have original value times scale factor equals new value, right? That's our formula. My original value is unknown. My scale factor is 3/4 because he's walked 3/4 of the library. So that's just 3/4 x equals the new value is 200 because I know 200 is 3/4 of the original value. So now I'm going to multiply both sides by 4. The 4's simplify, and I have 3x equals 800. The last step is to divide by the coefficient, which is 3, and I get x is 266.6 repeating. Since, again, there's context here, how far away was he from the library when he started? I would just round that up to 267 inches, but anything close, you could have done 266.6, but getting into hundredths of an inch is a little hard to measure. There we go. Standard 4, this was the challenging one. If I have 3/4 x equals 1/3, my common denominator is 12, so I'm going to multiply both sides by 12 over 1. All right? 4 goes into 4 once, 4 goes into 12 3 times, and I'm left with 3 times 3x, which is 9x. 3 goes into 3 once, 3 goes into 12 4 times. So I have 1 over 1, which is 1, times 4 over 1, which is 4, and 1 times 4 is 4. Last step here is to divide by the coefficient. I have 9 over 9, which is 1, times x is x equals, I'm just going to leave this as 4/9. You could have done 0.4 repeating, There we go. Number 2. 3x plus 1 divided by 2 equals 6. I only have one denominator, so I'm going to multiply by that denominator, 2. Okay. Now I can cross simplify these 2's, and I'm just left with 1 times 3x plus 1, which is just 3x plus 1 equals, and 6 times 2 is 12. So now I have just 3x plus 1 equals 12. Subtract 1 from both sides. I have 3x equals 11. And again, last step, divide by the coefficient. 3 divided by 3 is 1, times x is x equals, and I'm going to leave this as 11 thirds. You could have wrote it as 3 2/3 or 3.6 repeating. All of those are correct answers. For the last one, and give myself plenty of room. 5/3 minus 1/7 x equals x plus 1/3. I'm going to use fraction busters here. I'm not going to deal with, I don't want to add or subtract these weird fractions because, again, I'm lazy. My common denominator, well, my two denominators are 3 and 7 and 1. We can think of this as like a 1. My common denominator then would be 21. So I'm going to multiply both sides of my equation by 21. And I'm going to rewrite this so I'm showing that I'm multiplying every term by 21. 21 over 1 times 1/7 x equals 21 times x plus 21 times 1/3. A lot of us forgot to multiply x by 21. And also a lot of us forgot about this x. But 21 times 5/3, 3 I can cross simplify. 3 goes into 21 7 times, so I have 7 times 5, which is 35. Bring down the minus sign. 7 goes to 1. 21, or 7 goes into 21 3 times. So now I have 3 over 1 times 1 over 1 times x, which is just 3x, equals 21 times x is 21x, plus 3 goes to 1, 21 goes to 7. I have 7 times 1, which is just 7. So now I have 35 minus 3x equals 21x plus 7. I'm going to move all of my variable terms to the same side by adding 3x to both sides. That goes to 0. Notice I have a minus and a plus sign, so I know that I did that right. 35 equals 24x plus 7. Next, I want to move all my constant terms to the other side. 35 minus 7 is 28 equals 24, and this is 0. So now I have 28 equals 24x. My last step, divide by the coefficient. You could have left this as 28 over 24. I was okay with that. That's also 7/6. And let's see, if we do that, I believe it's, if I do 7 divided by 6, 1.16 with the 6 repeating, but all of these equal x. Thank you for watching.